Welcome to The Topic, where we highlight Houston Community College, our students, our programs, and our reach into the community. I'm Daniel Scholl, one of the financial coaches here at HCC. And we're here every Thursday afternoon when HCC is in session, live at 2 p.m. on Facebook and YouTube. You can also follow us on social media as Houston Community College District and watch us on HCC TV via your local cable provider. Today is a continuing special topic series called Financial Focus. Every other month, we bring you ideas for working more skillfully with your finances, to live your best life, take care of your family, and benefit your community. Women make up half the population of the world, but they sometimes encounter unique challenges in their financial journey, from the wage gap to longer lifespans. We're joined today with Kelly Keith, the Chief Program Officer for the Women's Resource, to discuss those challenges and how to find resources to face them. Kelly, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on your show today, Dan.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I know we've been talking for a while of getting you on here. I'm excited to finally have you. And I know you're not feeling great, so I appreciate you being a trooper today and empowering through. So I was wondering if you could just start out, tell us a little bit about what I consider one of Houston's nonprofit's greatest hidden secrets. What is the Women's Resource?
Happy to disclose. We don't want to be a secret any longer. The Women's Resource has actually been around since 1990, surprisingly. We started out as a foundation, the Greater Houston Women's Foundation, and we made grants and commissioned research for the Greater Houston area. Our founders really believed that there really wasn't a lot of grants and research that were being done to support the needs of women. So that's kind of where we started early on. And then as they began the work, they realized that there was a lot of need in the community to help women to understand just foundations about finances and to really strengthen women's understanding and knowledge around personal finance. And there really weren't a lot of organizations doing that. So they started grassroots financial literacy classes, just themselves, our founders out in the community, teaching classes to small groups of women about personal finance. And then in 2003, we decided as an organization that we would focus full-time on that mission to help women and girls to become financially independent, stable, and productive. So we changed our name from the Greater Houston Women's Foundation to the Women's Resource and began doing just that full-time.
That's awesome. So how would you kind of describe your mission as you see it today?
Sure. So, as I mentioned, we started with the finance classes early on, but now today our classes are rebranded. We call them Your Life Finance classes, and they're a 6-class series that has been designed by the Women's Resource. Our classes are actually open to men and women, even though our name would suggest that we would only serve women. We do serve men with our finance classes, and we teach the basics. So budgeting, savings, credit reports, credit scores, debt, how to save and achieve financial goals. So that's one of our largest programs. We work in partnership with other nonprofits across the Houston area. We teach 350 classes a year. So we're one of the largest providers of personal finance classes in the city. And we also have public classes that are available to anyone for free on Zoom. So all you have to go to is our website, www.thewomensresource.org, and you can find a list of all the classes and sign up for them for free. So that's just one of our programs.
Well, tell me about your other programs.
Okay, great. We have 3 other programs for women, women only. Our first is our one-on-one financial coaching program, and that program works specifically with women who have certain financial goals they're trying to reach. And in order to be in that program, all you have to do is be a woman or identify as a woman, have financial goals, have some kind of income. So that might look like income from a job, but it also could just be something as simple as child support or SNAP benefits, just something that you can budget with. They would work with one of our 4 financial coaches. We have coaches that speak Spanish and English, so we can do a bilingual coaching or coaching in English. And usually it's clients will meet with the coach once a month for as long as 6 months, but up to 2 years, just depending upon how long they would like the support. And typically we see women coming in to work on just understanding the budgeting process, learning how to save money. Sometimes women come to us with nothing in savings. Sometimes women come to us with 1,000 in savings, and they want to learn how to save more. Other times we'll have women working on increasing their credit score, paying down their debt, buying a home, purchasing a car, and all of those things are areas that we can help them with from a one-on-one financial coaching standpoint. Our second program is another coaching program, which is career coaching. So same principles, but we're really focused on helping women who either are unemployed to find a job or are underemployed. So maybe they need to make a higher wage. And so our three career coaches can really work with women on building confidence, understanding their strengths, working on their resume, doing mock interviewing. From time to time, we don't have a job bank, but we do have a lot of connections in the community that kind of put us in touch with employers and different occupational areas where there might be training involved. So really just helping women to increase their income so that they can become financially stable.
That's wonderful.
And then the third is our possibility groups, which is a group financial coaching program. And that group program is generally offered to like nonprofit partners, even employers. Houston Community College could offer a possibility group, but it's groups of women that are coming kind of from a like area, who are maybe 15 to 20 women who meet once a week for 90 minutes together with the support of 2 volunteer coaches, talking about their financial goals, receiving support and guidance, knowledge, and seeing incredible benefits. It's a time for women to share about finance, because a lot of times we don't want to talk about our finances. It's one of the least talked about subjects. A lot of times we have a lot of shame around, our finances, and we feel like maybe, we're the only ones that are in the situation that we're in, when really a whole lot of women are experiencing the exact same things. And when you bring us all together to talk about it, I like to say that's when the magic happens. And we start realizing, 1, I'm not alone in this, and 2, I have support, and then 3, if you can do it, I can do it. And then the stars align, and we really see a lot of growth in reaching the goals that women have.
Well, that's incredible. I think those are you're right. When you get that critical mass, magical things can happen. And you're right. There is a lot of shame sometimes around money management. I came across a study once that said that parents are more comfortable talking to their kids about sex and drugs than they are about money management. One quick question, and then we're going to take a quick break. But you mentioned that the online curriculum is free. Is there charges for the other programs?
Nope. Every single one of our programs is free.
Wow, what an amazing gift to the city of Houston. What I like to do right now, Kelly, if it's all right with you, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into the financial life specifically that women face.
Sure.
All right, we'll be back.
At Houston Community College, we make your lessons matter. Open the door to real-world education, where passions become careers. Find out more at hccs.edu and let your success take flight.
For more than a year, we have kept you informed with more than 500 remote episodes. But now we're back, bigger and better, with more news and more guests. Join us live every weekday at 10 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube, and on HCC TV at noon and 5 p.m. You can watch from anywhere. We go where you go.
And welcome back to the topic. We're continuing our discussion on women and finances with Kelly Keith, Chief Program Officer for the Women's Resource. In our last segment, we alluded to challenges women face with finances. Let's look at those and how they're maybe a little bit different They can maybe change a little bit as people go through their different stages in life. Now, Kelly, some things are universal, right? Savings is savings, a checking account is a checking account, but there are some unique challenges that women have historically faced because they've not always had access to finances. You know, I remember when I worked in banking, sometimes we would come across old accounts where the woman's name wasn't even on the checking account, the joint checking account, because that wasn't how that was done back then. What do you see today that is unique challenges that women face?
Sure. That's a great question. And, I would say that even in the last 5 years, the challenges that are now facing women has changed, really, I think we saw a shift when COVID happened. In fact, that was the catalyst to us creating the career coaching program that we have now. Is coming out of the pandemic, we saw that there were a lot of women struggling, to find employment, that women had to either, take a break, to take care of their families, stay home, stay safe. But coming back to the workforce after that became a little harder. And so we really wanted to put, both our feet forward to helping women to get back on their feet, post pandemic. But, in addition to that, we were also seeing record rates of inflation, from year to year to year, increasing, rent costs, housing costs. And that's made it really difficult for women, particularly single women, single mothers, to get ahead and to become and remain, financially stable. I've got a couple of statistics to share with you, just about our city and our state. But by 2040, it's expected for the female Texas population to increase from 14.7 million to 18.5 million women in the state of Texas. And right now, in Texas, women are outpacing men in earning college degrees, so by 58%. So that's interesting, especially coming from a Houston Community College angle. Yet, despite these advances, we're seeing significant economic challenges just in Texas and in our county. So, among single parent families in the United States, 70% are headed by women. Shout out to the single moms out there. I know that's really hard work. On top of that, though, 32% of households led by single moms live in poverty, and 2 out of 3 of Houston area residents lack enough savings to sustain themselves for 3 months. So I think some of those areas that I was mentioning, with inflation, increases in groceries, increase in rent, I mean, it's really having an impact on, on our female population, in the state and locally.
Oh, for sure. And we do have a lot of single moms who are students here at HCC. What tips would you give them just in general as they try to go to school and manage a family and manage a household?
Absolutely. I mean, it's definitely a challenge, and that's why I give my shout out to our single moms. And I would say, we are strong believers in budgeting, at the Women's Resource. Budgeting can oftentimes be a scary word. If you've ever sat down to try and do budget, it may not have gone well the first time, maybe not the second time or the third time, but it doesn't have to be hard or challenging or scary. Sometimes it's just about putting pen to paper and really trying to figure out what's your income and what are your expenses. So what's coming in and what's going out, and starting there. And then from there, it's about decision making. And really, that's where the freedom comes in. Really trying to understand, do I increase my income? Is that the next step? Do I need to decrease my expenses? Is that the next step? And that's where I think our financial coaches really come in providing that individualized support. They can teach women how to do a budget. They can teach women, or walk women through different steps that they can take to achieve their goals, their budgeting goals. So that's the number one thing I would say, Dan, is really get yourself a budget, maybe a financial coach in your back pocket, and carve out some goals that you can work toward. I want to speak just briefly on colleges, though, because I used to work at a college in the Houston area. So I've gained a little knowledge there. And I would say that if you are a college student, not to try to juggle too many work hours on top of too many school hours, right? So you're working a full-time job, and trying to take a full-time class load, that can often be challenging. And something's got to give, especially if you've got kids that you're taking care of. So just, working with your financial coach at a community college or your counselor to really create a balanced schedule, so that you can make sure that you're trying to get, do everything you can to do everything well. We know that with financial aid, there's different rules. And if you fail or drop a class, then sometimes you have to pay that money back. And so that's why it's important to really make sure you have a balanced class schedule, with everything else that you're doing in life.
So you said something, about budgeting being kind of scary. And I just want to jump on that real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It can be scary, right? I tend to tell people that they're on a budget no matter what. Like, even if you don't know it, you're on a budget. However you spend your money, that's your budget. I once had a nutritionist tell me that we're all on a diet, right? We tend to think of diets as kind of negative. But everybody's on a diet. It doesn't mean you can't eat anything. It's whatever you want to eat. You could go onto an all cheeseburger diet if you wanted to, right? But there's consequences. And it's the same thing with budgeting. We're all on a budget. That's however you spend your money. But you said something interesting. You said, you start prioritizing, and that actually gives you the freedom. And it's true, right? We think of budgets as restrictive, like a diet's restrictive, but actually it puts you in charge of your money. Yeah?
Yeah. 100%.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just, if people can get through that mind shift there a little bit, I think it's a big help. A lot of the kids here, not kids, a lot of the people here at HCC, students are, really into tech. Is there any apps or your programs or anything that you recommend to help them with their finances?
That's a great question. It really just depends on the person, honestly. From a budgeting perspective, there's a lot of different budgeting apps that are out there. I know there's some of our coaches on staff really like Dave Ramsey's Every Dollar app. It depends on the person. I can't stress that enough, because other people, that doesn't work for them. There's another one called You Need a Budget, YNAB.
YNAB, very popular.
People love that. The Women's Resource has a budget on our website, on our online tools tab, if you're curious in checking out what our budget looks like. So there's a lot of different options. I would also say that right now is a great time to look into like an online savings accounts, where you can get high yield savings. We're in a very unique time frame in our, just in our lifespan, where there is actually, good interest rates out there for high yield savings accounts. And there's some great ones that you can check out where you can earn a little bit on your savings. So that'd be something I would recommend.
Absolutely. And actually, I want to talk a little bit more about savings here in a minute. We are going to take another break, but when we return, I do want to talk about how women can protect themselves financially. And one of the ways that they can is through having, peace of mind through good savings and good retirement. We'll catch up on that when we return.
At Houston Community College, we make your lessons matter. Open the door to real-world education, where passions become careers. Find out more at hccs.edu and let your success take flight.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to The Topic. We're discussing women and finances with Kelly Keith, Chief Program Officer for the Women's Resource. Kelly, a lot of people out there are willing to exploit others for profit, it's always been around, but with electronic media, online purchasing, banking, there's a lot of dangers out there. We know we need to help women protect things. And one of the ways, I mentioned the last segment too, is to protecting that nest egg that you build, protecting yourself from future unknown things. How does one start with savings? And, retirement planning is so important, especially for women who have a tendency to outlive men. What do you recommend women do to get their retirement and their short-term savings going?
Right. Well, if you're new to savings at the Women's Resource, we like to set small, achievable goals first. So I would say that what we recommend is to start with a goal of $500 if you have no savings, and that's okay. If you have no savings, the only way you can go is up. So work to save $500. Statistics and research show that if you have $500 in savings, it's enough to cover you for an emergency expense, such as a tire blowing out, a trip to the urgent care, an emergency with a family member. $500 can cover you, and it can keep you from then having to use credit to cover that emergency and then increasing your debt. After that, then you can focus on reaching the higher level goal, which would be to save about 3 to 6 months of your income. For a lot of women, that sounds insurmountable, impossible to do. So just start with that 500 and then slowly increase from there. If you have to use the 500, don't beat yourself up about it. That's why you saved it. So it's really important to remember, and just continue to have a line item in your budget. We call it pay yourself first, where it's like paying a bill to yourself. Make sure you have, an amount, even if it's just $10 to start, that you're paying yourself. And if you have to use that money for emergency, you just keep paying yourself till it gets back up and further than you can get it. So that's really what I would say, from a savings perspective, Dan, in terms of that short-term savings. And then from there, in terms of retirement, I would say take advantage of, any kind of like employer plans. If your employer offers, a retirement plan, especially if your employer offers a retirement match. Don't sleep on those, because time is in your favor. The earlier you start saving for retirement, the better. Take advantage of the employer plan if they're contributing, and then while you're working on your savings, consider whether or not you can contribute to the match.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, in terms of retirement, time either works for you or against you, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're under the age of 30, it's really not that hard to retire a millionaire, as long as you're participating in those retirement plans and don't touch the money. Exactly.
Yep.
Other ways that you mentioned credit, that's another way women can protect themselves, right? Is it important for women to have credit in their own name as well as joint if they're in a relationship?
I do think it's important for women to have credit in their own name. Again, we're the value of the Women's Resource is putting the client first, and it's important for us to honor clients' values, and so it's okay, for a woman who decides that they don't want to have any credit. But there is value in having credit in your name as a woman. And one way to protect yourself as a woman is to check your credit report. So first, just to there's a free website called annualcreditreport.com, where you can go weekly to check your credit report, see what's showing up there, see what credit you have, make sure there's no errors that are showing up. For instance, you want to make sure there's no fraud, nobody's taken out credit in your name. Or sometimes it's not fraud. Sometimes it literally is just an error. So just looking for those. And then if you see them, to dispute those errors so they come off of your credit report and don't affect your credit score. I think understanding credit is important. Our class 3 really helps clients to understand credit reports, and class 4 is credit scores. I liken it to, I heard this on a podcast one time, that financial education and knowledge and not having it is like playing a game, like a board game, without all the rules. And if you're playing against other people, imagine you're sitting at a kitchen table playing against everybody else at the table knows the rules, but you don't, then you're less likely to succeed in that game, right? So financial education and knowledge is similar to that, right? If we don't have the knowledge, sometimes we're just not sure what we're doing. And with that knowledge, you're armed with some great tools to like keep yourself safe and get ahead and achieve your goals. So understanding some of the really foundational points about credit score. For instance, one example is just that late payments on your debts has the largest effect on your credit score, and making one late payment can drop your credit score up to 100 points. So just knowing those two things and knowing like, okay, now I know that I need to pay on my debts on time, can really actually help raise your credit score and make a big difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just add on to that. There is also a difference between a late payment and a later payment. I've run into some people say, well, I'm already late, so I'm just going to put it off forever. No, no, no. It gets exponentially worse. And it's always important to talk to your creditors if you are struggling there a little bit. But I love the analogy of playing the game without the rules. And I think, this goes back to why having, women talking to women about finances is so important, because for a long time, women were locked out of that game. Their own jargon was developed, and within the industry, and if you didn't grow up learning the code words and the secret handshakes, right, you were kind of locked out of that financial thing. If we've got some women or men here at HCC who want to learn more about your organization and how to take advantage of all these incredible resources, how do they go about signing up for these classes or getting in touch with you all?
Sure. Our website's super user friendly. So just go to www.thewomensresource.org. And we typically do come up at the top of searches when you look up Women's Resource Houston as well. And if you're interested in financial coaching, just go to our Get Involved page for women. And then there's a button. All you have to do is click, sign up, and then it'll put you in touch with one of our financial coaches. For our finance classes, those are usually listed under the tab for classes and webinars. And so you can go there, find a list of all of our classes. We also have on-demand classes, so you could take a class right now if you wanted to. So pretty easy to locate all of our resources right there on our website.
And do you teach just during the day, or do you, for people that are students, do you have classes at night or weekends, or?
Most of our classes are during the week. Our classes are open to the public, and sometimes they're at night, sometimes they're during the day. We usually try to, as I think I mentioned, our public classes are taught at the top of every quarter. So January to February, and again in April to May, and so on. And we usually try and switch the dates and the times each quarter that we offer the class. So if you couldn't catch, for instance, like the public classes in April will be at 12 on Mondays. But if you can't catch them on 12 on Mondays in this quarter, they'll be at a different day and it's time starting in July.
That's wonderful. I love that you're giving people so many options. Kelly, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on the topic. You've given us incredible information, and I want to join. I want to thank our audience for joining us on the topic as well. If you enjoy the show, please follow us on Facebook and YouTube as Houston Community College District. To listen to the topic and more HCC TV programming, visit hccs.edu/podcasts. For the topic and everyone here at HCC TV, thank you for joining us. I'm Daniel Scholl.